March 14th, 1967, Chase Manhattan Bank, Wall Street branch, 2:17 p.m. Dorothy Richardson has been a bank teller for 11 years. She knows the rhythm of her job, the predictable flow of deposits, withdrawals, the occasional odd transaction that breaks the monotony. But today, something feels wrong. The same three customers, back again. Fourth time this week. They're depositing paper bills, silver certificates, those old dollars with the blue seal that say, payable to the bearer on demand in silver. Then immediately withdrawing silver dollars. Physical coins, heavy, real. One transaction wouldn't be suspicious. 4 in 3 days? That's a pattern. Richardson watches the third customer leave, pockets bulging with silver dollars, a slight smile on his face. And something clicks in her mind. These men aren't banking, they're hunting. Dorothy Richardson isn't supposed to question customer transactions. Bank tellers process. They don't investigate. They certainly don't challenge customers making legal exchanges of U.S. currency. But she can't shake the feeling. During her break, she does something that could get her reprimanded. She pulls the transaction logs for these three customers. What she sees makes her stomach drop. Customer 1, 47 transactions in 2 months. Every single one follows the same pattern. Deposit silver certificates. Withdraw silver dollars. Leave. Customer 2, 38 transactions. Customer 3, 52 transactions. They're not alone. Richardson starts cross-referencing. 6 more customers. Same pattern. Rapid deposits, immediate withdrawals, always silver certificates going in, always silver dollars coming out. She grabs a silver dollar from her drawer, turns it over in her hand. It's heavy, substantial. She's handled thousands of them, never really thinking about what they contain. 0.77 ounces of pure silver. She reaches for the newspaper on the break room table, scans to the commodities page. Silver prices are listed daily, but she's never paid attention before. There it is. Silver. $1.29 per troy ounce. Richardson does the math in her head. If a silver dollar contains 0.77 ounces and silver is trading at $1.29 per ounce, 0.77 times 1.29, that's 0.99 in silver content. Wait, that can't be right. She recalculates. No, she had the purity wrong. These coins are 90% silver. She needs to account for that. She finds a coin reference guide in the bank's back office, looks up the exact specifications. Morgan and Peace silver dollars, 0.77344 troy ounces of pure silver. The math is simple now. 0.77344 ounces times 1.29 per ounce equals 0.9977, almost exactly $1 in melt value. But wait, Richardson checks the silver price again. It's been rising. Last week it was 124, this week 129s. If silver hits 130, each silver dollar becomes worth more than $1 in metal content alone. And suddenly, she understands exactly what these customers are doing. The scheme is breathtakingly simple. Silver certificates, those blue seal dollar bills printed between 1878 and 1964, are technically receipts, promises. They literally state on their face, this certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. It's not marketing language. It's not metaphor. It's a legal contract between the bearer and the United States government. Present a silver certificate at any bank. The bank is legally obligated to give you silver in exchange, usually in the form of silver dollars. For decades, this meant nothing. A dollar was a dollar. Paper or metal, the value was identical. But in 1967, something broke. Silver prices decoupled from face value. Industrial demand, photography, electronics, aerospace was consuming silver faster than mines could produce it. The price climbed. $1 per ounce in 1965, $1.15 in early 1966, $1.29 by March 1967. And suddenly, the arbitrage window opened. Here's what Richardson's customers discovered. Step 1. Go to any bank with paper silver certificates. Deposit them or exchange them for silver dollars at face value, 1 paper dollar for 1 silver dollar. Step 2. Take those silver dollars to a coin dealer or refiner. Sell them for their metal content. At $1.29 per ounce silver, each dollar yields approximately $0.99 in immediate melt value. Wait, that's a loss, isn't it? Not if you understand numismatics. Silver dollars aren't just bullion. They're collectible coins. Even common-date Morgan and Peace dollars trade at premiums above melt value. A decent condition Morgan dollar in 1967 trades for $1.50 to $2 among collectors. So the real arbitrage is this. Exchange one paper dollar for one silver dollar at the bank. Sell that silver dollar to a dealer for $1.50. Profit, so $50 per transaction. Now multiply that by hundreds of transactions. One of Richardson's customers has exchanged over $2,000 in silver certificates in 2 months. If he's flipping them at even a modest premium, he's made $1,000 in profit. Tax-free, risk-free, completely legal. It's not fraud. It's not counterfeiting. It's not illegal. It's just exploiting the government's obligation to honor its own currency promises while the market has moved on. Richardson stares at her findings. This isn't three guys making beer money. This is a fundamental problem with the U.S. monetary system. Dorothy Richardson knows she's stumbled onto something bigger than customer fraud. This is a systemic vulnerability. If a few customers in one Manhattan branch figured this out, how many others are doing it across the country? How long before word spreads? How long before the trickle becomes a flood? She writes a memo to her branch manager, Charles Whitmore, keeps it factual, professional, outlines the pattern, explains the arbitrage, includes her calculations. She submits it at 4:45 p.m. on March 14th. Whitmore reads it at 8:30 a.m. the next morning. By 10 a.m., he's on the phone with Chase's regional compliance director. By 2 p.m., the regional director is on a conference call with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. By 5 p.m., someone at the Fed is calling the U.S. Treasury Department. Because Richardson's memo doesn't just describe a clever scheme, it describes a run on the Treasury's silver reserves. The U.S. government is legally obligated to redeem silver certificates for physical silver. That obligation is backed by actual silver held in Treasury vaults. Billions of ounces, a strategic reserve built over decades. But if Richardson is right, if customers nationwide are exploiting this arbitrage, then the Treasury is bleeding silver. Every exchange depletes the reserve. And unlike paper money, which the government can print infinitely, silver is finite. The Treasury can't print more silver. And if the run accelerates, if speculators and coin dealers start buying up silver certificates specifically to drain Treasury silver, the government faces a nightmare scenario: depletion of strategic silver reserves, potential default on silver certificate obligations, a public crisis of confidence in U.S. currency. Dorothy Richardson's memo, written by a bank teller during her lunch break, has just triggered a monetary emergency. The Treasury Department moves with uncharacteristic speed. Within 48 hours of Richardson's memo reaching federal officials, emergency meetings are convened. Treasury Secretary Henry Fowler reviews silver redemption data. The numbers are alarming. Silver certificate redemptions have increased 340% in the past 6 months. In January 1967, 2.1 million ounces of silver redeemed. In February, 4.8 million ounces. In March, just the first 2 weeks, 3.7 million ounces. At this rate, the Treasury will redeem over 60 million ounces of silver in 1967 alone. The Treasury's silver reserve, 165 million ounces. Simple math. At current redemption rates, the reserve will be depleted in less than 3 years. But it gets worse. These numbers only reflect redemptions that have already happened. If word spreads, if the arbitrage becomes public knowledge, redemptions could increase tenfold, 100-fold. The Treasury could face a run that depletes the reserve in months. Secretary Fowler has limited options. Option 1. Let it play out. Honor all silver certificate obligations until the reserve is exhausted. Then default. Unthinkable. A default would shatter confidence in U.S. currency and potentially trigger international monetary crisis. Option 2. Buy more silver on the open market to replenish reserves. Impossible. The Treasury buying massive quantities would drive silver prices even higher, worsening the arbitrage and accelerating redemptions. Option 3. Suspend silver redemption. Break the promise printed on every silver certificate. Unilaterally end 75 years of silver-backed currency. It's the only viable option, and it's politically toxic. But on March 25, 1967, 11 days after Dorothy Richardson wrote her memo, Treasury Secretary Fowler makes the announcement. Effective immediately, the United States Treasury will cease redemption of silver certificates for silver metal or silver dollars. Silver certificates will continue to function as legal tender at face value, but their convertibility to physical silver is suspended indefinitely. The announcement is buried on page 14 of most newspapers. The financial press covers it, but the general public barely notices. Most Americans don't even know what silver certificates are, don't know their old dollar bills were supposed to be backed by real metal, don't know that backing just ended. But coin dealers know, collectors know, and the customers who were running the arbitrage, they know. The window has closed. The last official link between the US dollar and precious metal has been severed, all because a bank teller noticed a pattern. Dorothy Richardson never becomes famous. Her name doesn't appear in the Treasury's official announcement. She's not invited to testify before Congress. She doesn't write a book or give interviews. She's a bank teller. She noticed something. She reported it. That's all. But the consequences of her observation ripple through the American monetary system for decades. With silver redemption ended, silver certificates become historical curiosities. The bills still exist, millions of them in circulation, but they're just paper now. No different from regular Federal Reserve notes, except for the blue seal and the increasingly ironic promise, payable to the bearer on demand in silver. A promise the government no longer honors. Coin collectors and silver investors who'd been exploiting the arbitrage shift strategies. With no more silver dollars available at face value from banks, they turned to circulation hunting, searching through pocket change for pre-1965 silver quarters and dimes still trading at face value. That game lasts another decade, until rising silver prices in the late 1970s push even the most worn silver dimes above face value, and they disappear from circulation entirely. But the larger impact is philosophical. For 75 years, the United States maintained, at least nominally, the principle that its currency was backed by something real, something tangible, gold or silver, metal you could hold, weight you could feel. The suspension of silver redemption in March 1967 marks the beginning of the end of that principle. 6 years later, in 1973, President Nixon closes the gold window, ending the dollar's convertibility to gold for international transactions. The dollar becomes a purely fiat currency, backed by nothing except the government's promise that it has value, a promise that, unlike the one printed on silver certificates, can never be redeemed for anything physical. Dorothy Richardson retires from Chase Manhattan in 1985, 18 years of service, a modest pension, a gold watch, not silver, at her retirement party. In interviews decades later, after the story finally emerges in financial history retrospectives, she's asked if she understood the significance of what she'd discovered. "I knew it was a problem," she says. "I knew the numbers didn't make sense. I didn't know I was watching the end of silver-backed money. I just knew customers were beating the system, and someone needed to know about it. Someone needed to know. And because of that, because one teller paid attention when others wouldn't have, the United States government ended a system that had existed since before the Civil War, ended it quietly, quickly, with minimal disruption, all because Dorothy Richardson did her job. Today, silver certificates are collector's items. You can buy them on eBay. A 1957 $1 silver certificate in decent condition sells for about $2.50. Not because it's redeemable for silver, it hasn't been for over 50 years, but because collectors value the historical irony. A piece of paper that promises silver you can never claim. A contract the government broke because keeping it would have bankrupted the Treasury. Silver dollars, the coins Dorothy Richardson's customers were arbitraging, now trade for $25 to $35 depending on condition and date. Not because of their silver content, which is worth about $18 at current prices, but because they're numismatic artifacts, relics of a monetary system that no longer exists. The Chase Manhattan branch where Richardson worked closed in 2003. The building was converted to luxury condos. There's no plaque, no memorial, nothing to mark that this was where a teller noticed something wrong and accidentally triggered the end of an era. But somewhere in the Federal Reserve's archives, Dorothy Richardson's original memo still exists, filed away, stamped, dated March 14th, 1967. A single page that changed American monetary history, written during a lunch break by someone who was just doing her job.